Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our iOS development with UIKit tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at the UITabBarController. Now this is another way for you to navigate between different screens in your app, but this time using a tab bar controller. Now this is another one of those controllers that can hold other controllers. In fact, you kind of have to have it hold other controllers. This can hold pretty much each tab in a tab bar controller can contain any class that subclasses UI view controller. So it can have, so each tab can even have UI navigation controllers, and each of those UI navigation controllers can have a root view controller and push and pop controllers on and off their navigation stacks individually and all that stuff. So you can go quite a few levels deep here if you wanted to in terms of your view controllers. But what we're going to do is we are going to have 4 different tabs: a red tab, blue tab, green tab, and cyan tab. So each tab is going to have a UI navigation controller with a title corresponding to the color of the view controller that it contains. So the view inside of the view controller that the UI navigation view controller contains is going to have a single view in its view hierarchy, and that view is going to have a background color of either red, green, blue, or cyan. All right, so I already have all 4 of those view controllers set up. I will leave that up to you to do. Or set up your own screens if you would like. Now, inside of Scene Delegate, we have some work we got to do. I have a private function here that is used to configure UI navigation controllers and returns a UI navigation controller. This function takes in a UI view controller to use as its root. All right. So now, what we are going to do is we are going to create another function, and this function is we're going to use this to configure our tab bar controller. All right, so here we'll say configure tab bar controller, and then here we're going to return a UI tab bar controller like so. All right, now inside of here, the first thing that we're going to want to do is to create all of our navigation controllers for each screen. So we'll say let red nav controller. Well, actually, what we need to do first is we need to create we need to create all of the view controllers and then the navigation controllers. All right, so we'll say let red VC equals red view controller. Let green VC equals green view controller. Let blue VC equals blue view controller. And then we'll have let cyan VC equals cyan view controller. Like that. All right. So now we have all of our view controllers. Now we can create our navigation controllers by saying let red nav controller equals configure navigation controller, and we'll say red VC let green navigation green nav controller equals configure navigation controller, and we'll have green VC in there, and let blue nav controller equals configure navigation controller with blue VC in there. All right. Then finally, let cyan nav controller equals configure navigation controller, and we'll pass cyan VC into that. All right, so now we have all of our view controllers, and then we've created our navigation controllers with the view controllers inside of them as their root view controllers. Finally, the last thing that we need to do is we need to actually create our tab bar controller. So to do this, we can say let tab bar controller is equal to an instance of UITabBarController. Now you could leave this blank. You could give it a coder. You could, you could also give it a nib and all that stuff. But we're gonna leave it empty. All right. So we're gonna leave this with an empty initializer. And then we'll say tab bar controller dot, and we can say view controllers. This is an array of UI view controller. And so here we'll have red nav controller, blue nav controller, green nav controller, and cyan nav controller. And then we can also say tab bar controller dot, we can say selected index. So this is going to be like the index for which tab is selected. In this case, it's indexed like it's 0 index. So the default is 0, and we'll set that explicitly, but you don't have to. Tab bar controller dot, and we have all kinds of other properties here. We can select the view controller that is selected. We can reference the tab bar itself, so we can, for example, change the background color of our tab bar to something custom and all that kind of stuff, which is really helpful. But for now, that is all we need. So then we'll say return tab bar controller. All right, there we go. However, while that's everything to configure the tab bar controller itself, there is one small thing for each of these view controllers that we need to configure, and that is the image for each tab. Now, this isn't done on the tab bar or the tab bar controller itself. This is done with each individual. This is done with each controller. This is done with each controller. Okay, so what we'll do is we will, let's see, we will have now what you should be able to do is, I believe it's on the navigation controllers because that is the root of these tabs. We should be able to say red nav controller dot tab. I believe it's we should be able to do image tab bar item image. This is going to be a UI image. So we'll say UI image with a system name of first, we'll say circle fill. Green nav controller. We'll say tab bar item image. Okay. Okay, what we'll do is okay. Come on, Xcode. Tab bar image. Yep. And then we can say equals UI image with another system image. And this will be square.fill. And we'll just copy the rest here, just for simplicity's sake. We'll say blue nav controller tab bar item dot image equals UI image with another system image. And we'll say triangle fill. Okay. So there's our blue. And then we'll have another here. And instead of green, it's cyan. And then for this image, square.fill. And in here, we will have capsule.fill, like that. All right. So here we go. Now we can go back up to where we're doing all of our stuff with the UI window and all that. All right, so I'm gonna make sure this is visible. So here we'll say let TabBarController equals configure TabBarController. And then what we'll do is we'll set the TabBarController as the Windows root view controller. And instead of nav controller, TabBarController. There we go. All right. Alright, so we'll say private func okay. Alright, there we go. Alright, let's try to build it. Alright, build succeeded. Let's go ahead and run our code. And so here we go. This is our first controller. We have red. Alright. Is it gonna... Okay. So I'm gonna have to interact with the tab bar. All right. And then we'll have green. And then there's the capsule, which is cyan, or at least it should be. So we can see that we can indeed change we can go ahead and change the different tabs that we're working with, and then navigate to different screens in the navigation controllers if we really wanted to, and all that kind of stuff. But this is kind of how that works. Let's run this. Let's go ahead and run this in the simulator. All right. There we go. Let it do its thing. It's running. It's loading. Okay. All right. So we can see there's our red, our tab bar. And of course, our simulator will not let me interact with the tab bar, but if we run it on the Mac, it does. It's just a little bit buggy with VoiceOver, but it does work. And now that you have this working, I want you to kind of go and experiment with this. I want you to figure out, okay, how do I then push and pop things on from the navigation controllers and the various tabs? How can I customize this tab bar to look the way I would like it to? Stuff like that. I just want you to experiment with some of the properties here. And if you don't understand one, go to the documentation and read up on it. That's kind of how developers learn how to use this stuff in the first place. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. So we'll see you all in the next one.